future, Eliza. We're in the far off future of
2005.
2005.
But Gordon, I have good news and bad news.
Yeah.
Uh Bad news, I think the podcast has been hacked.
Oh
Uh
no.
but
We gotta do fucking cyber crime against these hackers from 2005. Whoa.
Jesus Christ, hello, well, hello
What's
everyone.
wait, no, what's the good news though? You
Oh,
didn't finish your
the good
bit.
news was just that the only downside is that it plays like the fucking Matrix effect on the screen. So it's like everything else is fine. It's just
I wish we got anything in this movie that was like fun cyber stuff.
like there like I got excited because there was the one like early on in the movie Scott Bakula like fucking like gets his retina scanned
The
and
retina scan with the open gears.
yeah, just a bunch of random techno shit shoved in there. But yeah, but then
Just
nothing
just
else like that.
open face cogs right next to where you're scanning your retinas. And everything
Anyway,
else is just real shitty 90s interface like uh quote unquote VR. Stupid fucking movie.
we are getting
Jesus.
way ahead of ourselves right now. Hello everyone. This is
Hi.
Televised, the TV movie story. I'm Eliza, that's Gordon, and it is Brapel Dennehy or Brian April Dennehy or Brian Dennehy
Dennehy.
Brol or
No,
whatever
Brian,
you
just
want to call
Denny Hepril. It's smoother. It's
it. Justin Timberlake
lose
came
the
in here.
Brian. Yes. So we are talking this week about NetForce, capital N, capital F, from 1999, which was my pick for this month of Brian Dennehy. And I'm, if you couldn't tell from that intro, this isn't the worst movie we've done. Um, it's long, which is
It's so long.
not putting points in its favor. 2.5 hours of NetForce, which is fine and boring,
It
unfortunately.
it is so much more fun to hear about than it is to watch it.
Yes, this is going to be a good podcast. I can confirm that up front. This is going to be a good time. Don't watch the movie. Saying that right here and now, do not seek out all almost 200 minutes. No, that's no. It was like on air for 200 minutes, but that was with ads.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
what?
just under 180. At least the well, upload I watched was.
Yeah, it was like 153, I think, in total.
No, that
Oh,
like
did you watch a longer cut? Mine was 2 hours 33 minutes.
here, let me find mine. It I thought it was like 2 hours 50 something.
Oh, you may have watched a longer cut than I did. Although I can't imagine there were multiple
Oh
cuts
no,
of this
my
movie.
I'm wrong. It was like
Either way,
233.
either way, long as hell. This is another two-parter. This is our second two-parter after the Langoliers, but not nearly as fun as the Langoliers. Yeah.
The cola was not very good today.
Yes, it is not. Unfortunately, yes. So we are talking about Net Force from 1999, directed by Robert Lieberman, written by Lionel Chetwynd, based on the Net Force series of novels by Tom Clancy and Steve Peiches Peichnick.
I don't know.
That's what I'm going to go with. Which, by the way, those books, Net Force, two separate words. That is the one thing this movie does get right is making Net Force one word, capital N, capital F. Really tells you how stupid this is gonna be, but not stupid as fun as I thought it would be.
Hmm.
Stars Scott Bakula, Joanna Going, Xander Berkeley, Brian Dennehy, Kris Kristofferson, CCH Pounder, and Judge Reinhold. Also starring Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa, Chelsea Field, Sterling Macer, Paul Field. Two Fields in this movie, or
Hmm.
I maybe wrote that down wrong. I don't know. Frank Vincent, Kirk Baltz, Alexa Panavega. Also, Anjul Nigam, who does not get a credit in the opening titles, but is credited on the Wikipedia page and is a pretty important character. And Sam Anderson as the head of the FBI, who you might know from he's the principal in Forrest Gump that Sally Field has sex with, and also he's on Lost.
Of
It
course.
broadcast on ABC February 1st, 1999, part one, and February 4th, 3 days later. On the first, it was up against an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, an episode of Becker, and an episode of LA Doctors on CBS. The first annual TV Guide Awards on Fox, a TV movie with Shelley Long called Vanished Without a Trace on NBC, a TV show called The Sentinel on UPN, and a TV show called Hyperion Bay on the WB. And on the fourth, it was up against a TV show called Turks on CBS, which is a cop show about a family of cops whose last name is Turk, starring William Devane, among other people.
I wonder
Something
if they
called,
made a sequel series called The Young Turks.
I bet they did. Something called World's Most Shocking Moments on Fox. An episode of Frasier that guest starred Woody Harrelson on NBC, and then
As
also
his Cheers character, I imagine.
yes, as Woody showing up, and the wiki description said it was something like, you know, when here, let me find the exact phrasing of it because it was very stupid. The show where Woody shows up is the name of the episode on the Frasier wiki. Uh,
The
oh,
show where Woody shows up.
that's the name of the episode. A long 6 years. This is just the end of the paragraph summary. A long 6 years since leaving Boston and the bar where everybody knows your name, Frasier hates himself for wishing the slower, more deliberate Woody would soon forget his. And then also an episode of Veronica's Closet, an episode of ER, all on NBC.
What is Veronica's Closet?
I don't know much about it. I just know the title. There was a TV movie called Roswell: The Aliens Attack on UPN, and then on the WB, The Steve
That's
Harvey Show and For Your Love.
the Roswell thing. That's the Kyle MacLachlan thing, right?
No, that's one that's just called Roswell. This
Oh,
is Roswell: The Aliens Attack. It didn't have anyone that I knew in it,
okay.
just from skimming the cast list. But no,
See,
there's.
it sounds like NetForce was the big thing.
It seems like it. I mean, Frasier was big in its time, but yeah,
True.
no, when it's up against Turks and World's Most Shocking Moments, people, I guess, might have had some sort of interest in part two of NetForce, although probably not because it is bad, and nothing in part one really would have hooked them, I don't think. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not the worst thing we've talked about. It's not bottom three, probably. I wouldn't say, but it's not great, but there is a lot of stuff in here to talk about. I wrote a lot of things down. I wrote a lot of notes.
One last thing about that segment. Uh, I looked up Veronica's Closet. Apparently, it was the follow-up of David Crane and Marta Kaufman after they made Friends, and
Oh,
it's like Kirstie Alley stars as I imagine Veronica. Yeah,
Veronica
Veronica
Skloset.
Ronnie Chase.
Oh, I
Uh,
was gonna. Her last name is Skloset.
that'd be great. And yeah, it's a play on Victoria's Secret because she runs a
Yes, yeah.
lingerie shop. Okay. Anyway, now we can go on to the actual movie we are here to talk about.
Can you give me a brief plot description of NetForce just to set the table?
Let's
Uh,
see because there's a
how how much of the absolute jargon babble of following like red herrings and nothing plot beats can you retain having just watched this movie?
okay, so I'm gonna start off by saying I don't remember a single fucking character name outside of
Oh, yeah, no.
uh Judge Reinhold's character is named Will and Kris Kristofferson's character is named Scott? Question
And
mark?
the love interest is named Tony with an I.
Yes.
That's all I got. I couldn't tell you Scott Bakula's main character.
No, not at all. Anyway, so uh Scott Bakula
Wait, actually, no, I will say there is one other name that I remember, but we'll get to it later.
okay. Oh, I do know one that I think it
You
might be the
you
same name.
you know the one?
I
Yeah.
remember seeing
It's
it in the credits. It's like Jesus
Wait,
Christ.
no, okay, not that one, but also that one, but no,
Okay.
another one. Okay.
Anyway, so Scott Bakula, he works for NetForce, which is a division of the FBI, which is because there's a lot of cybercrime in the far distant future of 2005. Reminder, this was made in 1999. So
You wouldn't download a DVD. dun 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 dun. Sorry, continue.
Kris Kristofferson is the commander of NetForce,
Is the
and
head is the like division leader or
yeah,
whatever.
I think they say he's like the commander. Anyway, their whole thing is like prosecuting internet crimes. Anyway, uh, one day Kris Kristofferson's car blows up, and Scott Bakula gets promoted to the head of NetForce, and he has to find out why Kris Kristofferson died. His driver is still alive, but doesn't want to cooperate, and he's apparently tied with the fucking mafia who's headed by uh, a Chinese guy. That is literally like how much character they give him. He is
Yeah.
just a Chinese man. Um,
Yep.
and then there's also Judge Reinhold, who is supposed to be a Bill Gates analog, and he has a new web browser coming out. And it supposedly gives he wants to sell it to the mafia because it can with the right tools or whatever, you can use it to access all the data, everyone's internet data, I guess. And so
1999.
Scott Bakula has to figure out how to stop the bad people from taking over the internet and stealing everybody's data and everything. And there is so much more to this movie that we are going to get to, but that is a basic enough plot description.
Yeah, a few things there. It wasn't his driver that was still alive. It was one of the assassins.
Oh, okay.
They because I mean we'll talk about it in a second. They mentioned that his driver's dead in one of the clunkiest exposition lines. I don't think the Judge Reinhold character wants to sell it to the mafia. He needs the mafia's help to break into a building in Washington, D.C. I wonder which one it could be. And as a like to pay them back, he will give them a percentage of the information. I don't really know what that whole thing is because that also gets dropped pretty quickly. They are no longer working together uh, almost immediately. One of the big plot points that you didn't mention is that there are these consistent, very brief blackouts of all internet or electricity or
Ye
something. The
yeah.
first one is all phone lines get blanked for like 2 seconds. And then it's all like fiber optic cables. And then it's all satellite communications. Like within a few days, they all like get turned off and turned back on. And like people die and trains crash and stuff like that. Um, but so they're also trying to figure out that and figure out who's behind that and who's behind these hacks. There's also to like pick up where you left off and get the other major plot points in as much as this story has any. There's a breakout from a maximum security prison where eight maximum security prisoners all break out together, including the assassin that killed Kris Kristofferson and was in the hospital. Um, and that's kind of all the setup you need
Hmm.
without getting into like character stuff. Those are like the things that happen right before the very end without getting into the plot twist, which technically you can call a plot twist
Yeah.
because the movie acts like you don't know what's going on within 15 minutes of the movie happening.
Oh,
But
I I'm glad I wasn't the only one who was like
it
very
is
obvious
the most painfully obvious character isn't actually dead that I've maybe ever seen.
Mhm.
Because spoiler alert, all of this stuff going on is actually being done by Kris Kristofferson, who didn't die in the car bombing and actually has been working with these terrorists to turn off the internet.
It's so stupid.
He
Oh my
wants to
God.
turn off the internet because it's being used for greed and lust and all the other deadly sins.
The the rest of the seven deadly sins.
The rest of them, whatever they are.
Uh,
Uh,
it's
which the
oh
reason he has to do all this, the reason he has to fake his death and break into the White House and murder a bunch of people is that he, as the head of NetForce, and I think it's maybe implied inventor of the internet,
Yes.
uh, uh, set some fail safes for the internet that only the president has access to. So he's doing all this so he can break into the White House and
Turn
enter
off
all
the
the override things and turn off the internet because the internet is evil. If you couldn't, if if you hadn't already assumed from some of the things we've said and also some of the throwaway like references to we're in 2005 and like future jokes, this screenwriter is so notably conservative that his Wikipedia page has a hyperlink at the bottom of it for what is the exact phrasing of it? It goes to the disambiguation for conservatism as a portal. And he also co-created the Friends of Abe, which is like a society of conservatives in Hollywood. So if you couldn't tell, this movie is has a very particular point of view about the state of America and the state of the internet in 1999.
Oh, this this fucking movie. But on the one hand, I fully support Kris Kristofferson in shutting off the internet.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
it, it's such a the framing of this movie is so weird because like it it fully makes sense like when you know like oh this is a movie made by right-wing people who love like fucking cops and shit. But it's just like making Kris Kristofferson out as the morally ambiguous kind of bad guy, but it's like, ooh, you should be conflicted because he's trying to turn off the internet. And it's like Scott Bakula does so much awful shit in this movie. He is
Oh,
such
yeah.
he is such an evil man.
Well, yeah, he's a Fed.
Yeah,
Um,
but just like he's so unpleasant.
yeah. No, nobody in this movie is likable in as much as anyone in this movie is a character to begin with. The few that are not super redeemable or watchable.
The
Um,
the only two real three actually three watchable people are well actually three
well,
and a half three and a half
yeah,
I'm leaving it
I
there.
I feel like I know which ones.
The half is Judge Reinhold.
The half is Judge Reinhold because it's wild what's going on with his character. Like his name is Will Stiles, which is their Bill Gates analog, but also he was canonically an apprentice of Bill Gates. So Bill Gates also exists. Because we got to get in that dick.
don't
But
don't know how the timelines diverged, but some
it's one of those things where like you'll get like a I can't remember what it is, but there was some movie or something that's like a totally fantastical AU whatever mid 2000s something that has to do with politics and has like a fictional president and all this stuff. And then at the end references the McCain Obama election. Like what are you talking about that John McCain and Barack Obama are still political figures in this 2008 like it was no, I don't remember what it was, but like it's just wild to bring in these like analogs and also the real person they're very clearly based on. But yeah, Judge Reinhold is at least watchable in as much as he's going for it with this character.
and then we have the fantastic duo of CCH Pounder and Brian Dennehy, who almost
Fuck yeah.
exclusively appear in scenes together. And when you were talking about the blackouts earlier, I made sure to write down uh, Pounder's fantastic line. Where is it? Is this internet related?
Oh, I mean, that's the thing is this movie should be fun because I mean, for many reasons, is Tom Clancy and all that. But like I love a good, turn of the millennium cyber sci-fi thing. I mean, The Matrix is your ultimate example, but like I just rewatched Existence in the theater the other day and it
Mhm.
fucking rules. I recently watched The 13th Floor for the first time, which is not to the same level as those, but is like an interesting, fun VR like cyber world thing. I'm just such a sucker for this kind of thing, and this movie should be its own kitschy kind of fun in that way. And it's just so dull because everyone it's so high-minded in all of its concepts, which means the movie takes a dead halt every 10 minutes for someone in a room to explain what's going on,
Hmm.
and it sucks.
Yeah. Although it's like I locked in every single time they put on those fucking VR goggles.
Yeah, which they do some interesting stuff with. I will say some of that stuff is kind of interestingly done, even if it's not the most compelling version of that you've seen. But like,
And the first time we see it is for a fucking, I think they call it a virtual brothel.
it's a VR brothel where all of the escorts are made up to look like Hollywood actresses. They only name drop two, but you have Lonnie Anderson and Drew Barrymore in there, which okay.
Yeah. When they said
I will say, we're doing deep fake stuff in 1999. That is ahead of its time.
yeah.
That is prescient.
Yeah, and it's like when they said Drew Barrymore, I had to quickly Google when this movie fucking came out because I was scared.
Yeah. Yeah. But and then I assume the third in your watchable cast members is Kris Kristofferson,
Of course.
which
And I want to say, this movie broke my brain. And the moment it broke my brain was because, let me write down exactly what I wrote. Um,
can I take a guess?
Scott Bakula wears VR goggles to talk to an AI construct of a dead Kris Kristofferson at the Lincoln Memorial.
Oh, I was gonna assume that the part that broke your brain is that Kris Kristofferson just has a mustache, no beard. She's in and of itself brain breaking.
I don't think about Kris Kristofferson enough for that to affect me.
That is fair. But yeah, no, that it's one of those things where like it's so many degrees of like, well, Kris Kristofferson is quote unquote dead 15 minutes into your movie. But we have to, keep reminding people that he's in the movie so that you can have the twist where he takes off that gas mask and you can be like, oh, yeah, that's this guy we've been seeing, and not that's the guy from 2.5 hours ago.
Mhm.
Uh, but also you need to, there needs to be a plausible distraction for your audience of why would you cast Kris Kristofferson and kill him that early on? It's so that you can have this VR Kris Kristofferson at the Lincoln Memorial, which, by the way, as it turns out in the third act, isn't VR, isn't like a construct. That's just actual Kris Kristofferson talking to him, and it's a decoy. The construct it keeps telling him, "Hey, why don't you go to my website?" And that's just like a Zoom call with Kris Kristofferson that it lies and says is like a more realistic looking avatar, but it's just the real guy. Um, but it's just so funny of a like, oh shit, we also hired Kris Kristofferson for our movie. Let's, put him in more of the movie. And it's the dumbest possible way to keep putting him in your movie is that Scott Bakula uploads all of his files into an AI chatbot and makes a digital Kristofferson. This movie has Cyber Kristofferson as a character.
Again, this movie was ahead of its time for fucking character AI.
Yeah, character AI Kris Kristofferson, who helps you rat out
Stop
Kris
the hack.
Kristofferson.
Stop the hackers.
I do have multiple notes that refer to that version of him as Cyber Kristofferson, all one word. Who is the best character in this movie is Cyber Kristofferson. Go to my website.
It's 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 so fucking silly. Oh, I wish the entire movie was as good as those scenes.
Yeah, the VR stuff also. There's some not plot holes, but like some moments that like you take a step back. There's a multiple points where Xander Berkeley VR calls Judge Reinhold. There's one where he calls him on like the White House lawn, and Judge Reinhold is like talking directly to him, and you have to stop and think like, wait, what is Judge Reinhold talking to? Is there a camera? Is there like a drone camera that he's just openly talking to about his plans to break into the White House on the White House lawn? What's going on here? It's very stupid. But there is some fun stuff it does with the VR separate from that. But that was just a nitpick that I like was trying to figure out what are the logistics of this VR headset that also can like plug into an arcade racing game at the mall. I don't
It's
know.
it's so weird.
It's very stupid. It is inconsistent in how it visually portrays its virtual reality stuff.
Uh,
This movie does open with Zoom Court, which I thought was funny.
yes,
Essentially, you have this judge talking about the warrant to break into Frank Vincent's compound,
getting the
uh,
E-war.
the e-warrant, and they're setting it on a timer because Frank Vincent's mafia like goons have their computers set to download all federal warrants ever, and they'll know that they're coming. And so Bakula's plan to break into the compound is duck and roll out of their government issued vehicle and shoot it so that it blows up and blows a hole in the wall. It's so stupid.
And
It's
they
this is a I mean, I'm gonna keep saying it. This is a very stupid movie.
and Brian Dennehy, he gets mad because they time jumped the E-warrant.
If you ever time jump an E1 again, your asses are gonna need skin transplants.
Uh, it's
Dennehy
be-
has some. This is some like top tier Dennehy bureaucrat acting in this movie. I will say.
I wrote down 3 lines of his.
I wrote down way more than that. I will.
Uh,
There's a
what
lot.
what I've got is the president has been all over me like ugly on a moose.
Yep.
As long as you keep my president off my backside, and it's like watching a donkey call a mule an ass.
I also wrote down the hog is in your sty. You damn well better deliver the bacon. He calls Scott Bakula too far into the damn slop. The mule and ass, he said. I feel like there was another one near the end there, but I didn't write it down. But yeah, he's got a great like down home southern good old boy type thing going on here. Man behind a desk, man in a suit. It's
Yeah,
great.
he's in too little of this movie, but every time he comes on, it's a treat.
Yeah, there should have been a like a NetForce spin-off series just about Brian Dennehy and CCH Pounder as like bureaucrats going after. I mean, they're not NetForce. They're like I
They're
think
just
CCH Pounder
FBI.
is like I think she's the director of the FBI, and Dennehy is also there. They never say what Brian Dennehy's job is. He's just there and important. But I would watch like a procedural
I
about the two of them dealing with whatever.
No, I think they talk to the director of the FBI later. Like, or not
Oh no,
later, but
yes, Sam Anderson. Sam Anderson's the head of the FBI.
yeah,
She's like the head of something though.
like
There,
she's
there is a cryon of she's on TV at some point. There's a cryon that says she's
something.
something specific. She does have a title, but no, Sam Anderson from Lost is the head of the FBI. You're right.
Yeah, and
Um,
but right before CCH Pounder's on the TV, Scott Bakula informs us that his ex-wife is a reporter, apparently.
yes. There's also another great CCH founder line. Today's most cruel and ruthless criminals use the net as the vehicle of choice. Oh God. Again, I want this movie to be more internet stupid. I want it to be more cheesy on that front. And it takes itself so goddamn seriously that I can't enjoy this.
Like,
Um,
like again, we need to emphasize to you listening at home, do not watch this movie. We are telling you all the fun parts of this movie,
yeah.
and we are leaving out 2 hours of bullshit.
Yes. Also, it's not easy to watch this movie. The only YouTube upload is the Hungarian dub, and we had to find it elsewhere
Yeah.
on other websites.
Yeah.
Kris
Okay, that are
Kristofferson,
you is great. Love it.
yes, Kris Kristofferson, quote unquote, dies in a car bombing that is rigged to a manhole cover, which fucking rules. And then he sends out a fake video call where he says he's under fire and is being shot at. And then the real kicker of like, oh, Kris Kristofferson isn't dead is the, again, like I said, very clunky line of his driver and bodyguard we got by the dental records. But the only thing we had to use DNA analysis to confirm him. That's all that was left. Like, of course he's not dead if you're gonna put that line in there. Just cut that out And it's maybe more plausible that Kris Kristofferson isn't obviously the one running this all. It's
Yeah,
such a it sticks out as a line so much that like there's no way to hear that line and not immediately know what's going to happen 2 hours later.
yeah, it's just like you have big actor and you never it's like you see car explosion, you see video call of gunshot, and then you see car explosion with no one around. We don't see any kind of dead body or anything. We just cut straight to like coroners and funeral and everything. It's just like there's
And then
no
we're told that there weren't even dental records. There weren't even teeth left, even though there were teeth of the other two men in the car with him. Like, not suspicious at all.
also just love that they had the car explode twice.
Yes. Once and then again, even bigger, so that you know for sure he's dead.
For sure, definitely dead. Absolutely 100%.
Then there's a bunch of bullshit with the mafia where Long Cheng meets with Will Stiles. Hey, that's two character names I remembered. And the Bill Gates. I'm just gonna call him Bill Gates or Judge Reinhold. Uh, is like, hey, help me break into the White House. I know your guys can do it. In exchange, you'll get part of it. And Long Cheng is like, okay, I'll help you, but you need to assassinate Frank Vincent for me because he's disrespectful, I guess. And then he gets shot by an escort that is a okay, that's the character name that I want to get into. Did you pick up on her name?
No.
So when she gets killed, they mention that she's the daughter of an ex-IRA agent, and her name is Selkie Farrell.
Oh.
Selkie, like it's like fucking like, oh, this is our Mexican assassin, Chupacabra Gomez. Like, what are you fucking doing? What are you fucking talking about? This is my deadly killer, Loch Ness McDougal. Like, it's it like it fucking it's so stupid. I don't think she even has a line of dialogue as like not in disguise at any point. So we don't even get to hear her be Irish. We just like, what are you talking about? Anyway,
Fantastic. Love,
she shoots Frank Vincent in the chest and then leaves. And that is almost the rest of the mafia story. That just kind of gets dropped pretty quickly after that.
I was so excited like to see what's his name again? Something Vincent?
Frank Vincent, like
Frank Vincent.
from
I
Goodfellas and The Sopranos and
yeah.
stuff. Like you've seen him in a ton of
I
Scorsese stuff.
I looked him up and it's just like I was like he was so great in that one scene and then he gets shot and dies. And it's like I wanted so much more of him. But
Yeah,
no, he had to get fucking shot and died.
one of the great like stereotypically mafia character actors. Like he'll show up in your movie to play a mafia guy, and always love him, and far too little of him in this movie. But he's great.
Another scene I made note of is the fucking dinner scene with Scott
Yes,
Bakula and Tony. He with meeting her mom, and it's like
her very Italian mom.
these are not real people.
There's no
They are
reason for that scene other than to be like, oh, here's a will they won't they about this relationship that is already ongoing and is only put in jeopardy because he gets promoted to head of the NetForce after Kris Kristofferson doesn't die, and then immediately promotes her to his old job. And so now there's a conflict of interest because he promoted her, and now he's worried about like dating her, even though they seem to be already dating. To
and
the point that his daughter already knows her and likes her.
yeah,
Also,
and
like,
and also it's there's the big moment where Scott Bakula calls her scary.
yeah,
She brings it up later. It's just like it's a whole thing.
yeah. And that's the reason he hasn't married her yet, is because she's intimidating to the guys around the office and she takes it seriously. Um, Presumably more stuff happens after that. I couldn't really care. I didn't there's probably a blackout here, maybe, but my next note that I have is Yeah, there's multiple blackouts at this point because Bakula goes through Kristofferson's files to like run the data on some list of guys he had to see who like could have possibly run these. And one of the lines that he has that I took particular note of is this is when he like narrows it down to Will Stiles, is that the same name showed up at the top of 9 of those 11 lists. This movie knew about 9/11.
Uh,
That's crazy. Bill
I
Gates did 9/11.
oh, for sure, definitely. Um, I got this one line that I do not even remember the context of, but somebody is talking about the mafia, and it's around this point in the movie, but they say, if they're good enough for the Kennedys when they wanted to take out Castro, they're good
Right.
enough for us.
Right, which no, famously not
They
actually.
were not good enough.
Very famously did not take out
Un
Castro.
unless
Alternate
this
universe.
is the turning point
This is
that
the universe.
shifts the universe.
This is the universe where Castro did get taken out in the 60s.
Yeah, where Kennedy was not shot, and it's fucking. But Bill Gates still exists, still becomes big tech guy.
And by 2005, we have Star Wars 7 because the daughter got a something Skywalker doll, from Star Wars 7. One of the many painfully shoved in, hey, we're 6 years in the future lines. Which there's they'll do it every so often, just a line of like, oh, there's one point where they reference the Second Gulf War. There's one point where Judge Reinhold mentions the polar caves they found on Mars last year, the ones with the fossils. Just like some very, very stupid, hey, future speculative fiction.
And
What do you
again, 2005.
2005, 6 years in the future. That's like, oh, I'm writing a screenplay now in 2031 and fucking uh the dinosaurs. Remember the dinosaurs from 3 years ago that could speak English and became the president? Remember that? Remember that, guys? Hey guys, remember when that dinosaur became president? I'm gonna speak about it very naturally. Like, hey, remember that thing that happened in 2029?
Crazy that that happened. That dinosaur became fucking president.
Yeah, in 2029.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I did not expect Gavin Newsom would lose to a fucking dinosaur. Yet here we are.
there we go. Cyber Kristofferson.
Cyber Kristofferson.
I have so many notes that just say Cyber Kristofferson, nothing else.
Um, what else did there is I want you to go through the scene with Tony and the Zoom call.
Oh, we'll get to that in a second because I have some other
Oh,
assassin
okay, you
things.
go ahead then.
Because Will Stiles, at the behest of somebody using a voice modulator that certainly isn't Kris Kristofferson, essentially is like, hey, you need to take out Scott Bakula. You need to kill him. He's getting close. And so he takes his Irish assassin and tells her to assassinate him. There's a point where she jogs by his apartment and he just like openly just stares at her ass and tells his driver, it's okay to look, just appreciating nature. And then he's at the arcade with his daughter and the assassin shows up and has a gun to him, shoots at him, and he walks out of the way and doesn't notice it because she instead shot an arcade cabinet. The guy playing the arcade is like, whoa, I made this arcade blow up with the fake gun. And then she just walks away. She's just done. She's done attempting to assassinate him for the day. One bullet is enough. That's it. I'm just gonna leave. Darn it, I missed. Oh well, some other time.
We'll try again later.
We'll get him later, which she does, because she this is a while later, but we'll get to it now. She shows up in disguise as Tony. At his after killing the driver whose name is like Gummy or whatever. And she like shows up as Tony. It's like, oh, I didn't want to wait for our dinner date tonight. I'm here now. Let's have wine. And he is ready to go. But then he gets a Zoom call on his landline video phone, by the way. It is hooked up to the wall. It is a landline Zoom. But it's Tony on the other end. And he's like, "What are you talking about? Are you calling me from the living room? Also, that doesn't look like my living room behind you. Also, you're wearing a different shirt. Are you in my living room?" Uh, and then she's like, "No, I'm not in your living room. Hey, who's that behind you that looks like me and is approaching you with a syringe?" And so the silky feral gets him in the neck with the syringe of some fast-acting poison, but doesn't get him all the way. And he just sort of like stumbles and grabs it and stabs her with it. Meanwhile, Tony on the other end is like, "Hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Are you okay getting stabbed by this woman that looks like me and then tackling her? I should maybe call the cops eventually." And then she does, and they show up, and he is in the hospital, and he wakes up 2 days later, and he's fine, I guess. But
Uh, in the hospital, she tells him that was a paid assassin made up to look like me, and what I wrote down was that is a dumber twist than the killer was was a ventriloquist and never outside the house.
yeah, although we did know that she was an assassin that did costume stuff and fake masks.
True, true, true.
They do sow that seed pretty early. And also, we saw her stab the driver with a syringe. At no point did we think that was the real Tony, because she did murder a guy already.
I just like the
Um,
line.
it's a good line. Before that, all though, so we've now had at this point in the plot all three blackouts and the prison breakout, and Tony's big plan to figure out who did this because it's crazy what's going on. Um, is she just sort of like scouts around a bunch of different VR chat rooms to try to find a hack. She essentially appeals to the ego of the hackers to be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna ask around about that big blackout and see if someone starts blabbing." And he does. And the lead they end up having is that this guy was also the one who designed the security system for the prison. Is what they end up finding after they track his IP address. But so she like corners him into blabbing about the blackouts and the prison thing. And then in this VR bar, she pulls out her badge, which I thought was a nice touch that they programmed in her NetForce badge to her avatar that she could pull out and apprehend this guy who just logs off and leaves. They show up to the house that they track the IP address to much later in the night, and they're like, "It's empty. You fucking NetForce guys, you're running us on a wild goose chase." When like, yeah, obviously he wasn't gonna sit tight and wait for the feds to show up. Why did you think this was a viable plan? Uh, but they do eventually go in and find blood, which they link to one of the eight violent criminals they broke out of prison because there was uh by the way, why'd they do that?
I have no clue. Like this is the part of the movie where I kind of did not understand a single thing that was happening.
Yeah. I mean, I know they broke out the one guy who was the assassin for the
I
sake of it,
I
I guess.
I
But then they
think
break out the like KKK guy and the like the bomber and all these other violent criminals essentially to have like heavies for when they break into the White House, I
yeah,
guess.
like it was just to help them get into the White House and stuff, which wasn't even that well guarded to begin with.
Yeah, it's is very stupid. But Xander Berkeley and Woman are in charge of these criminals, and we keep cutting back to them every so often. And that doesn't end up going well. One of them shoots another one because he keeps talking during the game they're watching. And that's the blood they use to track to figure out that they were actually at this building. Um, then a bunch more stuff happens that I didn't write down because who could possibly care? Um, another line, another line, which is revealed, it is like delivered as if it was a plot twist, but is so like it's not even a twist to the point that like I assumed otherwise. It doesn't even read to me like the Kristofferson thing where like it's a badly hidden twist that when they reveal it, it's like, well, yes, obviously. It's like a thing that they bring up and then they the way it's talked about here is like they're talking about it like it's a twist, but like why would it be? Because we keep hearing that Will Stiles wants to get into a building in Washington. He has something he wants in a building in Washington, and there's a point where Scott Bakula is putting things together with all the information he knows, and is like, Stiles wanted to get into a Washington building. I think that might be the White House. Like, I know there are others. I know there are other important government buildings in Washington, D.C., but like, that's not a plot twist.
No, he
It
was
was
trying.
probably that one on account of storytelling. Like, just
They
like,
they
what?
were trying to misdirect us. We were supposed to think that he was trying to get into the fucking Lincoln Memorial, but no, it's
That's why they
actually
keep showing us the Lincoln Memorial with Kris
it's
Kristofferson pretending to be a computer at it. Which is, by the way, that is how he figures out that it's the White House, is because he ignores Cyber Christopherson's constant, like, why don't you go to my website? And it's like, no, I want to talk to you, lower poly Kris Kristofferson avatar. You tell me what's going on. And he's like, oh, well, it's obviously probably to do with my encrypted files that I gave to the president that are at the White House. But then, yes, we have all of our mercenaries in the White House, and the guy sitting at the desk in the Oval Office takes off his gas mask, and wouldn't you know it, it's double cross Stofferson. He's
Kristofferson.
secretly a bad guy. Um,
By the way,
this
I
movie
wanted
ends the exact same way as Civil War.
I thought the exact same fucking thing. It's just like it's like of course there's differences, but
Yeah,
it's
but
like
it's a
the,
shootout that is slowly inching towards the Oval Office. Uh, Very stupid. Again, cannot state enough how stupid this movie is.
I just wanted to briefly I want to bring this up earlier, but I forgot to. This is the second Kris Kristofferson movie we
Yeah,
watched on the
and
podcast.
will not be the last. There is a lot of Kristofferson.
There is so
There's
much
all
Chris.
of the Gambler movies. There's
Oh, that's Kenny Rogers. Oh no,
oh that is no
but
that is Kenny Rogers.
Kristofferson
You're
is
right,
in some of them.
but he is in some. There's uh right. He's one of the Highwaymen, right? The
Uh
Highwayman is Kristofferson and Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson, and
oh yeah, but Kristofferson has like his own
he has his
Western
own
movies.
franchise
He
though.
has Pair of Aces and Two for Texas and fucking
But
God.
there's a Stagecoach is the one that I was thinking
Oh
of. The
yes.
the Stagecoach remake with all of the Highwaymen, Willie Nelson, Kris Kristofferson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings is the fourth one
Mm,
in there. But yeah, there's a lot of the late great we should mention.
yes.
One of the most charismatic men you'll see in anything, and a lovely singer.
Hmm.
Love us some Kris Kristofferson. Could have been in a lot more of this movie if they knew what they had.
And he was also in Perfect Murder, Perfect Town, JonBenet in the City of Boulder,
Fascinating.
which is a two-part miniseries.
Yeah, there's a lot of TV movies on his Wikipedia page. He played Jesse James in one of them.
Hmm.
There's Blood and Orchids, Freedom Road. Uh, uh, the sequel to Pair of Aces, by the way, is Another Pair of Aces: Three of a Kind, which fucking rules. Um, yeah, lot of Kristofferson that we will be talking about. He was in another one this same year called The Long Kill, also with Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings,
That's such a funny name. Um,
and Travis Tritt, Jonathan Banks. There you go.
so going back to the White House,
Yes.
I want to mention that right before I was watching that scene, uh, we were talking about the director of this, Rob
Whatever.
Lieberman.
Yeah.
Uh, Talking about his other movies. I sent you a picture I found of a tr a football movie starring John Voight that he directed, and the
Yes.
trailer on IMDb had this fucking John John Voight looking scared with like this zoom effect on the image, and you made reference to uh, John Voight when you don't want to check out the boner he's got. And then as I'm watching the fucking White House scene, Kris Kristofferson just gently pulls out a gun, and it's like I just immediately thought of, why don't you check out this boner I got?
Hell yeah. But no, so as Kris Kristofferson is turning off the internet because it's evil, uh, he's having this long villain monologue, or I guess back and forth with Bakula, and Xander Berkeley on the floor musters up musters up just enough energy to raise a gun at Scott Bakula. Scott Bakula turns and shoots him, and then Kris Kristofferson shoots Scott Bakula in the shoulder, and Scott Bakula jolts back and shoots Kris Kristofferson in the chest and sends the office chair spinning around, and he gets to die in a spinny chair. And I thought that was fun because his corpse just sort of like very slowly rotates back around towards Scott Bakula in what is supposed to be a very emotional shot, but it's just very silly. It's an office chair. I know it's the president's office chair, but it's at the end of the day, you can't have a dignified death in a spinny chair.
That that whole shootout is just so silly because Xander Berkeley, like, either I does he shoot anybody or does he just like get up and Scott Bakula turns around
He's
and
going to shoot him. He's going to shoot him.
Scott
He's like
Bakula
trying to shoot Scott Bakula.
Scott Bakula turns around, shoots him. Kris Kristofferson shoots Scott Bakula, and the force of that bullet makes Scott Bakula turn and inadvertently, or maybe advertently, shoot Kris Kristofferson, which kills him.
Right in the chest. Right like perfect fucking bullseye right in that open white shirt
Right
just
into
to
his
like
fucking heart, which is
yeah.
probably computer by now.
Yeah, well, that's why he wants to turn off the internet because he got infected of it.
No, wait, wait. He literally discovered
he,
the thing and got brainwashed by that thing.
he got brainwashed of it.
Got brainwashed
He
of
has
it.
to turn it off because it's evil. It's being there's too much cybercrime. I have to turn it off so that nobody, not even Will Stiles, can have the internet. That's because that's his whole thing ultimately is that like Will Stiles wants to use the internet to get everyone's data, and I hate that son of a bitch. So I'm gonna fake my own death and murder several dozens of people, including, by the way, the Long Cheng does agree to meet with NetForce, and then they blow up like the Christopherson and Co. blow up the Chinese restaurant that they're in just to kill him, but does a whole lot of murder to stop the internet because of crimes.
It's so stupid.
I'm so fed up with crimes. I'm gonna do crimes to stop the crimes instead of doing law to stop the crimes.
Crime. Only the only way to stop a bad guy with crime is a good guy with crime.
Oh fuck.
It's fucking
That's so much better than anything I would have said. Oh, the end of the movie, the very end. We do get another Dennehy scene, which he has some line or whatever, but I didn't write it down. But he was Brian Dennehying it up as one wants for your Brian Dennehy month. Not enough
Mhm.
of him, but it's certainly better than what he was doing last week.
Yeah, it's like he is definitely like he's probably in more of this or like has more screen time in this movie, though it's a lower percentage of this movie, of course.
Oh yeah. But so then we go to their burying Kris Kristofferson, and it's Scott Bakula and Tony are there at the gravesite, and as they're leaving, Scott Bakula says, "Now I want to do something that'll make your mama very happy," making a joke about like, "Oh, I'm gonna propose to you," but it's like, "Oh no, we're gonna get lunch." But I just like I was so ready for this movie to be over and so done with it that I was just like, I'm gonna fuck your mom. You know what'll make your mom happy? I'm gonna fuck your mom. Ah,
This fucking movie.
NetForce. More
Do I,
like bad movie.
I, I'll just say so. One of our categories for the eventual TV movie, or the Dennehy's, I should say. Um,
Which is what we're calling our end of year superlatives,
yeah,
which we've
I
already started planning for.
yeah, and it's like I wouldn't share this if I was going to plan on nominating it, but I know I'm not going to nominate this for my best porn parody title, so I'm just going to say I wrote down Netfucks.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, that is a category that I am already several titles deep on, and we shall
Uh,
see how that ends up by the end of the year. I'll probably have a long list of runners up, but yeah,
yeah,
no,
like of the how many movies? This is our 14th movie. I have 10 titles.
that's most of them.
It
Speaking of 14 movies, this is not a good one of them. This
it
is near the bottom, but also, like I said at the top, still not bottom three, I would say. It's probably fourth worst, but it at least has some things going for it that like if you did this an hour shorter, you could probably make this a lot more engaging. Or if you did it as like a longer miniseries and didn't focus in on this one very stupid story and just made it like a procedural cybercrime of the week. We're doing future cybercrimes. We're doing future NetForce cop stuff. Like this could be something. This could be watchable. But as
mhm.
it exists right now, it's not ultimately, which is a shame.
I there are two things I wrote down that pretty much signify my thoughts in the movie. First one is when I wrote down, this is Casino meets Criminal Minds meets The Matrix. Well, maybe more like Bugsy meets NCIS meets Johnny Mnemonic. Maybe more like The Alter Knights meets NCIS Sydney meets Time Cop. And then
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong.
And then the second thing I wrote down, which was with about like 30, 45 minutes left, in all caps, I missed the ultimate legacy. Take me back. I'd rather watch the whole trilogy again than sit through the rest of this.
Now you know that's not true, Eliza.
I I had like the ultimate trilogy. They're terrible, terrible movies, but at the same time, I was so much more engaged with their terrible, terrible plots than like this was just such a slog to get
Do
through.
any of those movies have Cyber Christopherson?
Dude, this movie doesn't even have the drug cartel kidnapping a guy in Uruguay only for him to walk out a couple weeks later.
Yeah, but it has Cyber Christopherson saying, go to my website multiple times. Go to my website.
Yes,
Why don't you go to my website?
I this is still better than
This
The
movie
Ultimate
gave us
Legacy.
this movie gave us Chupacabra Gomez. Come on now.
I it is my second lowest rated movie of the ones we've seen. It is right below Liz and Dick. It is below Big Dreams and Broken Hearts. I'm sorry.
Those two were short. I'll give you that.
Like uh,
But
this is just way too fucking long.
yeah, I wanted it to be fun. There's a reason I was so excited to pick this. Because on premise, on cast, on just like log line, it seemed right up my alley. It was not. It was not good. Uh, but you know, we've done worse.
I
And
with how NetForce turned out, I am honestly really scared for It Happened at Lakewood Manor, aka Ants. How that's gonna turn out.
I
Because
feel like that one is still gonna be pretty good.
like
I hope.
that is that is half the length of this. Oh, not really half. It's 90 minutes. But at the same time, it could be an equal case of movie that sounds funny but is actually really, really bad and just boring.
Yeah.
but we'll see.
We'll
But
see.
before that, we get to Ruby and Oswald,
Ruby and Oswald, another very long one,
which is also 2.5 hours.
and doesn't even have cybercrime, but
Unf it
it has Michael Lerner
it
as
does
Frederick
have
Forrest.
the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, it has not a lot of Brian Dennehy to my awareness, but you know, we'll see. We will
Well,
see next week with Ruby and Oswald from 1978, following Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald, as you might have assumed.
is this how we're ending this? Like, do we have anything?
I got nothing else. I don't have more about NetForce. There
I
wasn't even any interesting trivia. There were just two of them, and
oh,
one of them is the film takes place in 2005.
and the other one. Well, no, that's not true. The thing I sent you wasn't trivia, but it's just quotes. Somebody saying
Oh
"Good morning
yeah.
Vietnam" and connections references "Good morning Vietnam."
Yeah, with taglines, I'm really just scouring IMDb. The one who controls the internet controls the world, and also the tagline for the book series, virtual crime, real punishment.
This movie was a real punishment.
Yeah. Oh,
Anyway,
here's a good IMDb review from October 5th, 2005. 4 out of 10 stars. Net farce, more like. And then other stuff. A longer review. That's just the name of it. Uh, big subject, small budget. Too long and too dull. Humorously poor. Not a movie I appreciated other than as humor. These are all just the titles for these reviews.
however,
Uh,
it was Emmy nominated for Best Sound Editing.
it was? Yeah.
Yes.
What did it lose to?
I don't remember. I didn't look that far.
If you come within 10 feet of this movie, you might die of boredom. From April 20th, 2000.
Oh, yeah, fuck. God, IMDb is really old.
Yeah, there's a review. There's like reviews from 1999. A most annoying, lousy piece of work from 99. Why did I waste my time from 99? I can't believe I paid to rent this video from 1999. Yeah, we should look into more of these. We should look into more IMDb reviews on these.
Oh yeah, especially when it's like we can get contemporary reviews of them.
Yeah. From August 2000. Aw, it wasn't that bad. A review that, by the way, ends with all in all, it was bearable. 5 out of 10. 0 thumbs up, 3 thumbs down on that review. Best watched with one eye closed from 2002.
What does that mean? Like you're a fucking pirate with an eye patch?
Just like, don't pay too much attention to it. Like, put it on in the background while you're doing other shit, I imagine.
I think it means this movie is perfect for pirates,
Yeah, this
especially
movie.
internet pirates.
Yeah. Hey, you know what rating they give to movies made for pirates?
I mean, this is a TV movie, so it'd be probably like a TV like 14 or whatever.
R.
Nah, I don't think that really works.
TV
That's where
14.
I'm ending this fucking episode. Have
TV
a good night.
14, you matey.
Good night,
Fucking
everybody.
nothing. I'm sorry.
Bye.
Bye.